All right, so now one of the things that I always like to share, I'm going to show you guys a video before we move into Grant, and I'll explain to you why I'm showing you the video afterwards. I'm actually going to start over because at the very beginning you couldn't hear the sound.
As for every single one of us, learning something new means rearranging the way our brain works. Our brain has an astonishing 100 billion neurons, or brain cells, all connected together. Learning is about creating and strengthening pathways through these neurons for impulses of electricity. But between each and every connection in our brains, there's a tiny gap called a synapse. For any of us to learn something new, the electrical signal has to jump across this gap to continue its journey. The gap between the two brain cells is tiny, but that doesn't mean it's straightforward for a signal to get from one side to the other. For us, it's like crossing a deep ravine. And getting from one side to the other should tell us something about the way we learn. The first time a signal crosses from one brain cell to the other demands the most effort, and it's the same when we cross our ravine. The first trip across is the hardest. Having crossed the ravine once, the journeys across get easier and easier. And a similar thing happens when we learn something. To start with, learning is difficult. But as the signal crosses the gap between the brain cells again and again, we establish a more solid pathway. Sorry about that. By the time we've made the crossing over and over again, it becomes effortless. We can do it whenever we like. We finally learned something.
Okay, so how do you think this video relates to what we're doing and what we're talking about in here? Where we are right now.
Learning new stuff.
Do you mind hitting the light?
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to take fire really in the course of this presentation, which will be about half of that, probably less than that. Let's do 320.
We're not going to listen to Matthew Syed. Okay, so learning new stuff, obviously, because you guys are learning a lot of principles you already know, just a different version of it. Okay, what else? How does this relate specifically?
It applies to our conversation yesterday about impression versus. That's what it
So it does.
How, yeah, and how the whole thing, how we use impression share to help monitor what kind of budget we should be recommending through the course of the PPC campaign versus looking at it from this angle. We're gonna have to do it a couple times.
Absolutely, absolutely. So what's interesting, and I typically show this video to the class, and I show it for a couple reasons. I was a psychology major, and one of my sub-majors was biological basis of behavior. So I was very, very interested on the biological reason of why we do what we do and how it works, the biochemistry. So yesterday I kept calling you Tanya, right? And what did I say? I said I have a neural pathway. I've created a neural pathway. That's why I did it. I didn't think about it. I had learned you as Tanya for whatever reason, so that's why I would look at you and say Tanya. It was automatic. I wasn't thinking about it, and I had to slow myself down to say Beth, 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 because I had just that quick created a neural pathway. So whenever you learn something, you create a neural pathway. And it was interesting that we did have that conversation because that's what you have learned. And number one, learning is, it may not feel difficult, but there's a biochemical process that's occurring as you learn. And that's why sometimes when you hear something for the first time, you're like, wait, say it again? It doesn't connect. You're making that crossing. So it would say it again, and then you hear it a couple times. Think about whenever you guys go home. You don't think about it. You're on autopilot, right? If you're in your home city, maybe not so much just yet, but it's coming. When you were in Michigan and you're in your different areas, once you had learned that route, you would just go. You would be talking on the phone, listening to music, doing whatever, and you'd end up at and you have no memory of how you got there. You had created a neural pathway. It's kind of like if you're in a forest and you keep walking the same path over and over, you can see that path clearly. Same thing happens when you learn, which is why we practice repetition. That's why we repeat the same thing over and over and over to really drill it, because once you know it, you know it. You don't even have to think about it. It's effortless. Now, the other piece of this, by the end of the day yesterday, and close your ears, Grant, he's not listening anyway. See, I told you he wasn't listening. I said, see? It's all good. By the end of the day yesterday, did you guys not feel tired? Truthfully, right?
I felt energized.
Tell the truth.
I was exhausted.
Exactly. Exactly. That's because you had expelled. That means you truly learned. You had expelled and used a whole lot of mental energy. We weren't doing lifting. We weren't like, So it wasn't a physical tiredness. Mental tiredness can be even worse. You were flexing your brain muscles, so to speak. Each time you create a new neural pathway, I like to call it like a wrinkly brain. You know, the more wrinkled your brain is, the more you know. Because if you have a smooth brain, that's a problem. You know nothing. Your brain is just smooth. That's a terrible insult to tell someone they don't know what you're talking about. Like, you have a really smooth brain, don't you? Yeah, I do. I sure do. Like, I can tell. You know, it's a terrible insult, and they'll have no idea what you're talking about. But you are creating grooves in your brain. So the more you learn, the more you know, the more evolved in thought, the more grooves in the brain. Like a rat brain is not very grooved. Human brain is like all over the place. So the reason why you guys felt so tired is because you started creating new neural pathways. And you get to the point where, especially like if you've done a whole day, you get to the point, I can't take it, right? You're like, I can't take another thought. The brain becomes numb. It feels like it's numb. That's because you've created all these new neural pathways and your head feels full. You know what I'm talking about? It feels full. So whenever you feel that full head, that's wrinkly brain. And my objective is to give you lots of wrinkly brain over these next couple of days. So there's a reason why you feel tired. There's a reason why you feel like your head is about to burst. There's a reason why you're like, I can't take another thought, another bullet point, another slide, another video. I can't. Because you're creating new neural pathways and you're stretching your capacity. So that's why at the end of the day, with workshop, teaching, learning, you feel the way that you do. Just know that means I'm truly learning something, A. B, I'm creating new neural pathways. And C, I'm on my way to wrinkly brain. Okay? So, and that's interesting that we did have that conversation, impression share versus the conversion tract, because you have a neural pathway with that. And not saying that you can't connect the two together, but just understand why sometimes when you're learning, why it feels like, whoa, this I can't do that. You're unlearning a neural pathway or you're expanding it. So I just wanted to share it with you, how we learn, so you understand why we're doing what we do, why I'm going to say stuff ad nauseum. I get it, Tiff, I get it. Wrinkly brain yet? No wrinkly brain, so I'm going to keep going till the brain is wrinkled. So that's why. All right, sounds good? So anytime the brain starts feeling full, just so I know if we need a little break, because you can stop some wrinkly brain by switching one activity and doing something completely different. It kind of like gives you a break and then you can go back. And it doesn't feel as wrinkly brain as before. So just wrinkly brain, gotcha. All right, I'll switch to this, we'll come back. That's the funny thing. John last week, a couple times, he was like, wrinkly brain.
And you're like a professional at this, right? Remember you were a neurosurgeon or something?
Nah. Yes, I was. See, they're gonna think, they're like, this chick is weird. What did you hear about me? Yes, she throws paper on the floor. What else did I do? Keeps her reps up at 10 o'clock at night, prepping accounts. And now the neurosurgeon thing. When I was at Duke, my professor, he was my mentor. I worked in his lab one summer, and he was very interested, obviously that's why he was my mentor, in brain and learning and everything else. And part of my job, this is going to sound really gross, I wasn't going to tell him this, and I can't believe I did this, but this is yet again one of the things I did that I just shake my head at. I entered data into the computer, but I also took out rat brains. What I mean by that, the rats, after we did a series of them learning different mazes, my job was to chip away at the skull and take the brain out so that he could, dissect the brain and observe it. So I have little rat heads in my hand and little chisels, and I would split the flesh, and then the little head, little skull, and I would be chipping away at the little teeny skull, and then scoop out the little brain very carefully, not with my hands. But I couldn't really touch it, so that it wouldn't make any false impressions, so that he could get a real sense of what the rats had learned. So that's what he's talking about. I was a neurosurgeon. Yes, I did take out rat brains. Isn't that weird?
It's different.
It's not weird, but I find it fascinating.
Yeah.
Really.
And at the
I'm
time,
a thinker of the group.
and I'd be sitting there talking to whoever else was in the lab with me, like, yeah, girl, clip, 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 yeah, girl. And not even thinking about the fact that I had a little rat skull on my head, his little flesh open, and I'm just clipping away at the skull. I was like, I did some crazy stuff. That's all I'm going to say. I did some crazy stuff. So, yes, I did take out rat brains. So now they're like, she threw paper on the floor, kept the reps up all night. She told the rep to eat her liver, and she took out rat brains. The list just keeps ratcheting up. Awesome. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Celine, who's going to introduce Grant.
Is she not the best?
Yeah.
She is. More stories this afternoon. Okay, so here's what happened. We were all sitting in this room. It was week 1, and we had a lot of folks that were starting to learn the products, but the biggest challenge that everyone was facing was, we're going into white space. How are we supposed to position ourselves in the field? Nobody knows who we are. There's all this competition in the market in Tennessee and Alabama. Those were the students in the class at the time. And so we started to talk through, well, how would we introduce ourselves? So, we heard a little bit about the old interest creating remarks where we're like, well, maybe we should talk about maybe like an industry specific piece when we're walking through the door. Maybe it should be, let's talk about the competition and what they're doing walking through the door. Maybe we should speak to them specifically about their own company. Maybe come up with a one-pager on everything that's wrong with them online. And of course, Grant's in the back going, God, no, don't do that. And then someone came up and said, I was getting filmed. And then someone else said, well, maybe we should introduce ourselves because we obviously have this Google partnership. Maybe we should talk about Google and this whole Premier partnership. And Grant's like, oh, this is getting worse. So why I want to introduce this is I believe that this is the best training, aside from all the excellent product training, systems training you're going to get from the very best from Tiffany Pringle. But as far as what is going to be able to take you from good to great in the field, I believe that the next hour is really going to change the game for you. So, Grant, you got to come up here and you got to show them how you did it 2 weeks ago. So, round of applause.
Thank you. GM! I'd like to thank all the little people involved. I usually don't do crowds this large, so I have a little bit of stage fright right now. People are very, I was going to say you ladies, and then I saw you, but then that would still fit. So, yeah, I'm really excited, man. I mean, I know that you guys are excited to be here and stuff. Hopefully you can get a little bit out of this hour. The one thing that I know is that you're all already very, very good sales professionals. So my goal is to help you maybe just with a little bit of how to define who you are, to kind of commit to, speaking about the brain, to commit to your subconscious why people would choose you, why people would want to work with you, why you deserve the right to sit in front of a potential client. This whole training actually does stem from some conversation I had with a gentleman at Google, where they did a study and they found out that what people are really looking for is a trusted advisor these days, which we all kind of know, right? They don't want somebody that walks in hawking product, right? Because they can get that from anywhere. One of the things that I realized over the course of time in this industry is that many people that are out there trying to sell, we've been so bombarded with product training that we've lost a lot of the sales skills, right? In other words, we would walk into businesses and just start using acronyms like PPC or SEO before we say hello, right? We're just already into product, and that's not our fault. What I believe has happened is that regardless of what company we were at, there were so many quick changes, so many changes happening so fast in the digital space that we were always trained on what? Product. Oh, here's a new product, or here's a new product spec. And the training that actually happened on sales skills kind of fell by the wayside. So I think what innately happened to a lot of sales professionals is, whereas we used to focus primarily on our sales aptitude, that got replaced in our subconscious by product specs. So we'd walk in and start a conversation, and before you know it, we're talking about quality score or off-page factors, and they don't even know our name. You know, I found myself in that position before as well. So if we want to be a trusted advisor, there's some different talking points up here that I'm going to touch on. But overall, I think that the way that we want to look at every interaction, especially when we're walking in a potential new client's door, is that it's really an interview, right? I mean, that's what it is. And we would never go to an interview without a what? Resume or an invitation. But yeah, but a resume, totally true. And something that I found is that, you know, across the country, people don't necessarily know what their own resume is. They know about their company, they know about their products, but in that vital first minute or two, when you walk in a door or when you get time with the business owner, what are we saying to build their confidence in us, right? And the reason why I find that so important is because if we're going to be blunt about it, most of the products that we sell are commodities. So that's a scary thing, because that means they can buy them anywhere. How many SEO vendors are there within 15 miles of here? There's probably, what, 20, 25, 30? How many calls do they get a day from somebody saying they're with Google, right? Right? So they get all these calls. I can help you get on the first page of Google. You're not on Google. You're terrible, blah, 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 right? So when that's happening, we have to really reevaluate how we're going to walk in the doors and what our resume is going to be. My contention is, and what I've seen work so well in the field, is just getting buy-in on who you are. Being able to, adequately and eloquently show what your resume is and what makes you so special. So those are some of the talking points that I'm going to go through today. And ironically, one of the first things that I found is that, contrary to popular belief, now in 2015, I think we have to stay away from the dirty G word when we walk in the door. The dirty G word is Google. And I know that if we stop and think about it, when we say that G word, what do? It's like eye roll, or I can't believe again, or you're one of many, right? So this is the problem with leading with Google, is this. I'm the worst artist, by the way. You're just one of probably 4 other people that walked in the door that day and said the same thing, right? You're just a Me Too company. You're a Me Too person. The fact that you can help somebody get on Google does nothing to differentiate you from everybody else that called from 50 different countries around the globe, right? From 50 different sections of that state, that emailed them, that tried to Facebook them. You're no different if you lead with that, because you're leading with something that's highly commoditized, all right? So I'm a big contender that we should stay away from that. Now, later in the conversation, obviously it's going to come up, and it is still important, right? But I do believe that can't be in the first part of your interaction, otherwise they shut off, right? You guys agree with me on that? In 2009, it was legit, right? 2009, you said that, boom, yeah, I need help with the Google, right? Like, just come on in, come on in. Now you say it like, it's like become a very bad word. which is crazy how things shift because people still want to be there, but they don't want to hear about it from you until they really trust you already, right? So that would be kind of lesson number 1. Stay away from the dirty G word. The next ones that come up when we're walking in, when you're building your resume and committing to your subconscious who it is you are, let's see, which way do we want to go first? Number 1, we really want to hammer home the fact in that opening statement, however you do it, that you're a local person. That's a huge advantage that we have over almost every other digital marketer that's walking in the door, right? And I don't know if we always do a good job of explaining that we're local. To me, just saying I'm local is not good enough. What I've found works very well is if you literally say the town that you live in and some places that you shop. I know that sounds silly, but what I've seen is it makes you human. You're not a sales rep anymore. So you significantly decrease the potential of just getting kicked out because you're not, there's a difference, right? Sales rep and human, there's two different things there to business owners. The more human you can make yourself, the more local, the more part of the community you can make yourself when you walk in, the better, right? And we'll wrap all these lyrics together in a little bit, but the way that I see it is this. What we need to do in our minds is really come up with like a subconscious checklist of all of these points. Now, we're all going to say it differently. I get it, which is why I don't give you a typed up, canned, this is what you say when you walk in. But I think that if you become very good at making sure you touch on all these points, you're going to drastically increase the number of people that will listen to you because you'll be nailing the interview, right? But in order to nail the interview, you've got to know which parts of your resume you want to share. And one, quite simply at the beginning, is the fact that you're local. Listen, I live right here in Dallas. My kids go to such and such school, so I'm very familiar with the area. I actually shop at the Publix right over there, or whatever it may be. I think getting that out in the first 30 seconds or so can really help bring the guard down because then you are different from many of the people calling on the phone and sending emails, right? So that's one. The next language I think is really important. And these will all come out in different orders based on the flow of the conversation, right? Myself and my team. I'm a big believer in saying that for multiple reasons. Number 1, if we just say I, we really limit ourselves, right? First of all, we set ourselves up for an uneasy handoff to Gina over here, to the marketing manager, to the platinum level of service, whatever we want to call it. Because the expectation, if you use I during this interaction, I do this, I do that, I do that, is that you're the focal point forever. You don't want that. We got a great fulfillment team that's ready to help these customers and allow you to just go keep selling. So the language that we use is very important from the get-go. And using myself and my team during that whole initial interaction not only elevates you, I believe, like when people believe that you have a team, that's good for you, right? Myself and my team, that language is important. It also sets up for the handoff, where the expectation is that, yeah, the members of my team that do this for other businesses in the area have done a fantastic job, and I'm going to make sure you get one of my best team members, right? You don't want it to be just you. So how you define who you are is vital from the beginning, using language like myself and my team. So far, walking in the door, staying away from the G word, being a local and real person, where your kids go to school, where you shop, where you live, giving that feel. Because that also ties into you being local and accessible, right? It gives that feeling. Using language instead of I, replacing it with myself and my team, sets you up to elevate your status in their eyes as a business owner in the area, right? Really, that's what you are. You own your own business. That's what you're doing there. And also sets you up for an easy handoff to the marketing manager in the back office. Next up is really one of the biggest, I think. So all of you in your respective markets have helped many people over the years do better in the digital landscape, right? Company you're with doesn't matter. You've helped many, many companies. What I find is, though, when most salespeople walk in, they say things like many, a lot, right? I've helped a lot of local companies. Forget that. Get a number. Think back. How many websites have you helped? Right? How many people have you helped get a new website? How many people have you helped market their website? And get a real number, whether it's 52 or 79 or 112, that makes it real. Does that make sense? Right? That shows you as a true professional. I've helped 112 businesses within 15 miles of here. increase their market share online. And what I'd like to do is get the opportunity for you to speak with myself and my team about doing this for you. And then drop some names in the community. Company doesn't matter that you work with, people that you've helped does. Does that make sense? So choose a couple of names of the people that might be closest geographically or bigger names in the community, right, to share with that person as you just walked in the door. But to me, making it a real number of 79 or 122, whatever it may be, that's important. The other thing of that is when we say I've helped 79 businesses right here in the Nashville area, many of which are very close to you, so-and-so and so-and-so are two of my happiest clients. Instead of just saying things like, I've helped them generate more leads, or I've helped them with a new website, I think what we should work into that is, I've helped them retain or grow their business. Retain or grow their customer base and their business. And here's why. One of the biggest objections that we face is complacency, right? Where people say, I'm too busy for more customers, and yet it's empty in there, they're like eating soup, but I can't take on any more business, I'm not in growth mode, I don't want to expand. So if we're intelligent with our language at the beginning and say things like, what myself and my team do in Nashville, which we've done for 79 other businesses locally here, is we help them retain or grow their market share, whichever is in line with their goals. Because the truth is, even if they want to maintain what they've got, they need to have a better digital presence, most likely, right? They still need a great website. They need a CRM system. They need something to promote the website. These are all needs that they have, even if, let's say, they have 4% market share and they want to stay at 4% market share. So I think making that, known up front is very important. Does that make sense? Right? In addition, the other benefit to dropping a nice number in there, in excess of making it real, more real, as far as you being a local, true professional with the team that's supporting you, is the number of people you've helped also shows that you have a blueprint for success. I like using business language and talking to a business owner as if I'm another one versus using a lot of digital jargon, right? I try to stay away from the G word, away from acronyms, away from all that until we get further into the sales call. But upon first interaction, I think that that's a really important thing to do, to remind people, hey, listen, because myself and my team have helped 79 other businesses here, some of which are from your industry, we already have a blueprint for success for you, right? All I need to know from you is whether you're in maintenance mode or growth mode, and we've helped somebody else locally here do that already, so we understand the market, right? You wouldn't be a guinea pig with me. That's something that works very well for me to say as well. You wouldn't be a guinea pig for me. Right? I failed so many people in the past, I learned from that, and now I've got a blueprint of success for you. Things that people laugh when you say that to them. It's very honest, it's very open. I'm not going to be testing things. There's not going to be trials and tribulations for you. We've done that in the past. Now, we're very confident. We're very confident in the blueprint that we have and our ability to help you succeed. Right? So just some of the lyrics that kind of wrap around that. So far we have the, when walking in, staying away from the G word, focusing instead on yourself, on your resume, and thinking always, why would you hire you? Separating yourself from the lemmings. You don't want to be one of many, you want to be one of one. And to be one of one, you've got to speak about you and what you've done, right? Because you're trying to get hired. This is a big one. Find something nice to say, right? Like, crazy. Who would ever think that, right? We'll go back to 2009 again, 2010, whatever. Back in the day, right? It used to be cool to walk in with a printout or on the iPad, now we had iPads back then, but whatever it may be, and say, I notice you're not on the first page of Google. First of all, that's breaking the G word rule. Second of all, that's the same thing as if I saw John in a bar, I walked up to him, punched him in the face, and then expected him to talk to me nicely. Does that make sense? Because who knows they're not on the first page of Google? Who knows that already? They do. And how many people told them that yesterday? A lot. On the phone, right? On the phone, maybe some in person. But yet so many people lead with that. So you violate the G word rule, and you walk in and you just insult the person, and then you're like, and by the way, I'd really like to have a meeting with you.
My favorite was a month ago from Reach Local. You realize that you're coming up for worst plastic surgeon in Nashville, aren't you? So they call me and they're like, Beth, and I'm like, okay, let's see how many people Google worst plastic certainly make that negative immediately,
Yeah.
and botched and this and that. So
Yeah.
now it's not, it's just a fear tactic, but I'm like,
Absolutely. And it's not that, I mean, we can still create a fear of loss later in the call,
Yeah.
but if we're interviewing for a job, it's not a great way to start out, is it?
Yeah.
Like, you wouldn't walk in and insult your interviewee when you're going for your interviewer when you're going for a job, right?
Yeah.
That totally would. So let's stop doing that. Let's find something nice to say. Some of the things that work well for me are saying things such as this. You walk in and you're finding something nice to say, so you say, myself and my team carefully select the people that we choose to do business with in this area. And those people that make the grade are the people that have laid a foundation for success online already. And from what I've seen, you've already invested some really good time and energy into making yourself stand out online. But what we do is we take you from good to great, or from great to excellent. And then say, I love your website. Or, did you know that you had great exposure for these words? It's just a different way of, and you're going to get into all the stuff that needs help anyway down the road, but not in the first 3 minutes. Not if you want to be standing there minute 5, 6, and 7, right? You'll show them an area for opportunity as soon as you get the buy-in from them that they trust you, that you're nailing the interview, that they want you around. Because you're a positive influencer, right? You're feeding positive energy into the situation, not walking in, insulting, talking about where they're not. This stinks, that's terrible, I don't even know how you're here, right? I mean, like, that's the feeling we give off so often, right? So staying away from the G word when we first walk in, making yourself a real local person, sharing where you live, where your kids go to school, where you shop, etc. Using language like myself and my team, right? Setting us up not only to elevate our status in their mind, but also setting us up for the handoff to the marketing manager, the platinum level of service in the back. Using a real number for the number of people that you've helped, right? Making yourself real, a real business, like a boutique marketing agency. That's what you're trying to emanate, right? You're trying to show that you're a boutique marketing agency, but with the backing of $1 billion company, right? So you're small enough to serve, right? What's that saying? Small enough to serve you, large enough to, or small enough to know you, large enough to serve you, right? So that's kind of the feeling I think that we want to give off out there. Small enough to know you and really help you with your business here locally, but large enough to serve all of your marketing needs. That would be one of the messages. But that finding something nice to say, I really feel has escaped us a lot. Not just the whole industry. It's so boring with the, you're not here, this is bad, look at your website, I ran this report. That's going to come later in the call, but it can't be the reason why somebody's going to talk to you, because everybody else has tried the scare tactics to get in the door, right? So they don't want to hear that. Think about it again. You're giving your resume to nail the interview. The other thing which we touched on when we were talking about finding something nice to say, they really have to feel chosen, right? If you're going to elevate yourself as a trusted advisor, as a true professional salesperson in your area, they have to feel that you don't choose everybody. They have to feel that, you know what, you're not the person that's just knocking on every door up and down the street, which you're not. You ladies are all brighter than that, right? But they need to know that. They need to know that you won't work with everybody. They need to know the type of businesses that you'll work with. You have to use the language like, after investigating, myself and my team decided to stop in here today specifically to talk to you about some of the great things that you've done already and how we might be able to move you from great to excellent online. We don't work with anybody, but you're a prime candidate for us because of the great foundation that you've already laid for us to build from. That's better than you're not on the first page of Google and look at the website stinks and look at this grader, right? I mean, it's like, it's more positive. Building them up can only help. Any questions so far? I know that you guys do a lot of this already. It doesn't escape me that you do this. But I think this has to be put back in our subconscious again. And if you can just take 2 or 3 points from this that'll help you, I think it's worthwhile. I always think about it as like a tiny checklist in my head. I don't even have to think about it now when I walk in on a customer. It is part of my subconscious. I've replaced the product spewing with this instead when I first walk in, right? And it's going to take practice. Because right now, and I don't know where each of you are as individuals, but globally, spending over a year doing this and riding with people, as soon as a customer gave an objection or gave the feeling that they might not meet with somebody, we would immediately default into product spec or what our products do better than other people's products. And that was simply because that's all we had practiced. So now we need to practice that and practice this and replace that. Does that make sense? So that we default to reasons why somebody should pay attention to our resume, reasons why people should hire us. Because this is all about you. And with all the products that we sell being commodities, all of them, that can be bought anywhere, it's got to be about you. Which means the initial interaction has to be about yourself and your team, not even about Dex Media. That comes next. That comes next. Nobody cares where you work when you first walk in. Do we agree on that? They care about you. Can I trust you? Do you seem like a trusted advisor? Somebody that I want to listen to. And that's going to come from confidence, right? That's going to come from the way in which you speak and carry yourself when you walk in, and how many of these points you can adhere to when you walk in. Make sense? The last part are these four, which are very important to wrap into the conversation, okay? This is kind of the feel, felt, found type thing, right? So there's four main reasons why these small business owners need yourself and your team. Those four reasons are knowledge, time, desire, and resources. These are things that they don't have, that you bring to the table. So as you're formulating, building your resume, and how you're going to position who you are, all the factors that we just spoke about, part of the backbone of that should be weaving in the knowledge, time, desire, and resources. Here's why. Knowledge. Mr. Customer, listen, I realized the 79 people that I've already helped make this transition to dominating online or to maintaining their market share online, whatever their goals were, one of the reasons why they hired me is because they wanted to do this on their own. But what they realized is themselves and their staff, they just simply didn't have the knowledge nor the time to acquire the knowledge. You know why? Because plumbers plumb. I always say that. I don't know, I find it funny. And HVAC people HVAC. Like, that's what they do. They don't have the time to go to university, to spend years like I've done and my team have done, building people's online footprint. They don't have time to learn how to do that. So that's the reason why those 79 people right here in Nashville have hired me, because what we have is the knowledge to get it done, because it ain't our first rodeo. Myself and my team personally right here have done it for 79 other businesses, some of which you know, like so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so. The other one, time. We know that with Small Business America, right? That's very finite. And in Small Business America, urgent always gets in way of important, right? Which is why you get stood up on appointments. It's not that they don't think it's important. They just don't think it's as important as the truck that just blew a tire that they have to attend to, right? So urgent gets in the way of important. And again, these are conversations, the business conversations that I like to have with business owners, because they can identify with that more than me using, technical jargon, digital jargon, and acronyms, etc., right? So time. Again, similar thing. One of the reasons why the 79 people that have chosen to work with myself and my team do so is because they simply don't have the time. I mean, to run effective campaigns and build out their online footprint, whether it's to maintain or grow their market share, who has time for that? I'm sure you like to see your husband, Mr. Customer. I'm sure you would like to see your husband. I'm sure you would like to see your wife. If you were to try to tackle this yourself, you would never have the time. So I think if you were to poll my current clientele and say, hey, what's one of the biggest reasons why you retain Grant services? I think they tell you because I gave them time back in their day, right? Which is something that they've always wanted. Myself and my team handle all of this for them, and we function as an extension of their business unit. So it's like having your own marketing department. You're outsourcing it, but again, because we're local, I'm accessible to you. Does that make sense? I like to say we function as an extension of your business unit. I'm local, I'm here, I'm accessible, but at the same time, we'll take all the time to do all of the stuff that you need done. Third one, quite simply, desire. Desire. I think one of the other reasons why people hire myself and my team is because at the end of the day, they may know it's important to get done, but they really don't have the desire to do it. I have yet to meet a small or medium-sized business owner that says, I really want to become an SEO expert. I really want to manage my 100 most important listings across all different internet venues. They feel they have to. They feel they need to find somebody that they trust, but they truly don't have the desire to do that. And even if they did have the desire to do it, the reason why these 79 other local businesses retain my services is because they don't have the resources. Now, Mr. Customer, can you imagine trying to do what I can do for you in-house? You'd have to hire, let's say, for argument's sake, you'd have to hire somebody to run campaigns on the major search engines. Still didn't use the G word, right? You'd have to hire somebody to build out your website. You'd have to hire somebody to keep up the relations with all of the customers that you already have, to help you retain and grow that customer base. You'd have to hire another expert in-house who does all your social. You'd have to hire another expert in your house to create video and syndicate it. Who the heck can do that? Those resources would cost you $200,000 a year if you can find them. That's why so many people decide to outsource to myself and my team, because we have the resources, right? I like to say to people, gang, we allow you to leverage our size and scale to increase your buying power. Right? That's how you get in the fact that it's benefit to be the big company. One of the things that our customers enjoy is the fact that we allow them to leverage our size and scale to increase their buying power so they can get all of the resources that they need at a fair and affordable price. And it won't break the bank. So knowledge, time, desire, and resources. Those are the four main reasons, which can all be interwoven into the talking points that we had before, as to why they really need you. Does that make sense? But again, it's all about the positioning, how to become a trusted advisor. It starts with nailing the interview, which starts with staying away from the G word, making yourself a real local person, using the myself and my team language to elevate yourself and make sure they're ready for the handoff after they inevitably buy from you. The number of people you have helped, making it real, attaching a number to that, finding something nice to say when you walk in the door to build them up versus beat them down. Make them feel chosen, that you don't work with anybody, right? With just anybody is important. And then the last one is, as you gain success, the last piece is going to be building out a portfolio. That's what boutique marketing agencies do, right? They have a portfolio of their work. It's something that I don't think enough people across the country do from a sales perspective in this space, is have, like, whether it's on your iPad to flip through, a portfolio of the different, let's say, websites that you've helped people transition, showing what they look like before and what they look like now, and maybe where they rank for a term. This would be the last piece. After you kind of nailed the interview, how do you close this out and transition? Show them. Right? People want to hear about you, but then they're going to need to see some proof, right? So maybe right now it's just logos of different companies that you've helped. Does that make sense? So maybe you use some different logos off people's websites that you've helped in the past just to get that name brand recognition. And as you move forward here, shoot, you only need 2 or 3 done, and then you've got a nice little working portfolio book where you could say, this is what the website looked like, this is what it looks now, here's the kind of services that we've given them. And make it real and make it local. Does that make sense? Yeah? Mostly? Cool. After this, what do you think the transition is? Then, after we've complimented, after we've made them feel good, after we've nailed the interview process, that's when we're going to transition into something that we found that maybe could be a bit better. That's the point where you've earned the right, at least, to say, and with all the good stuff going on, myself and my team, through our research, we're able to identify a couple of things that, if tweaked, would really help you. And that's kind of where we come in again, right? As I promised you, moving from good to great. You're good right now, but here's a few areas of opportunity that I would like to speak to you about. But before we get into that, let me tell you a little bit about my firm. And that's kind of where you'd launch into the Dex Media story. Does that make sense? Dex Media Story can't come first, right? I don't believe that you can walk in and just show the iPad and start walking through the presentation app right away. I think before that, this comes. So however you formulate this, I would implore you to practice it. I would implore you to write it out, write it out 10 different times. Not that you're going to use a canned spiel each time, but so that you start to commit the different components to your memory. It's not a tough thing to do, and it's actually very conversational in nature when done right, but try to get as part of your subconscious this little checklist. Have I hit on all of these points? And I think it'll serve you really well. After that, some kind of a portfolio, right? After that, a little something that can be tweaked. Again, still not the G word and still not that you're not here, right? But more like, I noticed that you have a contact form on your home page, but not on each page. That's something we'd like to talk to you about because you may be losing leads there. Again, you're doing great. Minor tweaks, but if myself and my team are going to move you from great to excellent, these are just some of the things that are going to be addressed. And when we decide to meet, myself and my team will do a ton of research on the front end so as not to waste your time. We'll come in loaded for bear with a specific plan built just for you that I'll be able to share and show you how we can fix this all affordably and forge ahead together. So that's really it. That was good. That was like early. Fun. But that's, yeah, so again, I mean, if you all are top-notch salespeople anyway. Get down here. Wow, that's